All right. Welcome, everybody. Good to have you all here. This is going to be probably a little bit different than a lot of the stage presentations you might have seen here before. This is just going to be a chat.
And I'll apologize for it being different.
Yeah. So, we're here to talk about a lot of the innovative things that Scripps has been doing, around all kinds of different television production. We have the authority on that here. So maybe I'll first introduce myself. I'm Chris Lennon from Ross Video. And so I've got the easy job up here. I'm just the question asker. And Matthew's the guy with all the knowledge in his head. So, I'm going to try to put him on the spot for the next 30 minutes or so and talk a little bit about a lot of the innovative stuff that Scripps has been doing. Before we start, probably good to introduce yourself and kind of what has your voyage been in your career up to this point?
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. And thank you to Ross for having these conversations. Maybe the best thing about NAB New York is walking around and listening to all the talks and chats, and I get a lot out of it. So thank you for that. I do not work for Ross and never have. They've paid me absolutely nothing. I have paid them over the years because we buy their equipment. So I speak of what I know. I've been at the Cates Networks and EW Scripps since 2019. Before that, I spent a decade at the Weather Channel with NBC News, directing a morning show. So I come at this as the end user. You know, I'm a TV guy that does television. The only thing I know how to do in my whole world is production. While other kids growing up were cutting grass and babysitting and working at, bagging groceries, I was wrapping mic cables and climbing ladders and focusing lights. It's the only thing I've ever been paid to do ever. So it's really all I know. When I got to EW Scripps via the Cates Networks was to launch Court TV, and Cates Networks was nothing but acquired and original programming, so that no live content. So when I got there, they were building the studio for the first time, building the control room for the first time, hiring staff that just kind of thought like live television, surrounded by the smartest people in the whole world. I still say I get to sit in the room with really, really, really smart people every day. They're geniuses. We call them engineers, but they're more than that. They're really, really geniuses. And I'm just glad that they let me learn from them a lot. As part of the launch of Court TV, kind of my portfolio included all the directors, all the camera operators, all the graphics operators, and all the audio operators. And this is kind of terrestrial television. We still have a switcher. This is not, we're going to do television with the space bar. We're not going to code and program. As you may not know, Court TV is really the true crime network. It's kind of in the entertainment / news space. We think of it on the entertainment side of things, but it's 70 hours of live television every week, which is a lot. We also support Scripps News, which until last year was over the air, and it's kind of been scaled back to just a FAST and CTV channel and applications, and that's 55 hours of live television every week. And then we'll do about 122 days of sports annually that look a whole lot different than the other, right? So the team has to kind of be the same, and you have to pick people that can paint in the entertainment space, the news space, as well as the sports space, which is really hard. And you got to have control rooms that can do it all, and you got to have studios that can do it all, which is kind of been the challenge. We call it innovation, but nobody sits down today and says, I'm going to be innovative. Let's figure out how to do, innovation is the rearview mirror. I feel like a lot. How did we do it? Well, I don't know. We just did it. But the reality is, finding a team that can paint in all the lines is the hard part. The easy part is the pen and paper.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe something that's pretty unique about Scripps, right? Is that certain customers we can pigeonhole and say, you're a sports broadcaster or you're a news broadcaster. You guys are kind of all of the above, and that's kind of a unique situation. So can you kind of talk about how do you accommodate news and sports all in one operation and Does it require separate equipment for each? How do you repurpose things? That sort of
And most people know Scripps as a local media station. It's 66 stations in 42, 43 markets. So if you're in Kansas City and you watch NBC, you're watching a Scripps local media affiliate. On the national side, there's ION, which is our big broadcast network. It was a top 5 broadcast network long before I got there, and long before, the Scripps acquired it. And then there's Bounce and Laugh and Grit and Court TV, and Scripps News. So in all that space, obviously the requirements are a lot different for, CBS affiliate or ABC affiliate in Las Vegas as it is for Court TV. And, while the technology teams are one, it really is, there's no one way of looking at the solutions.
So I could come into work and one day I'm working on the sports broadcast. The next day I'm working on news.
Oh, sure. For my team, absolutely. And not only could it be the next day, it certainly could be even that day.
Okay.
It is not uncommon for the same control room that's doing Court TV right now to do hockey this Saturday. It literally will happen.
So did you really design it all with that in mind? Was there anything specific you had to do, or did the stuff you already had lend itself well to whatever you wanted to do in terms of production?
Well, yeah, so I'm a little agnostic to what we're doing. Like the microphone doesn't care. It was the graphics, a font is a font is a font, whether it's a name font, a headline, or a score, right? So we're going to put tools in place that I know will work. I mean, an open is open, whether it keys off to the scenic from the truck for the hockey, or whether it keys off to somebody sitting at a desk, or whether it keys off to a seal in the courtroom, because that's what we're going to do television from today. So for me, it really is get the right tools, and that's a thing, and then get the people that know enough about television. We do TV, not news. We do TV, not court. We do TV, not sports. And then, just get everybody rolling in the same direction.
So I mean, that was something that was thought about when you kind of put all this together, though. Do you need tools that could adapt to whatever you wanted to do, right? And so
to some extent, but for example, we didn't have the Vegas Golden Knights hockey deal when we built the control rooms. Mm-hmm. We added a studio for our NWSL and WNBA on ION, but we used pre-existing control rooms, which means, for me, all the rooms have the same gear, same amount of gears. There's no such thing as a sports microphone. There's no such thing as a sports camera. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, et cetera. And the rooms jump around. Like Scripps News will use Studio A for a few hours and then Studio B because court's going to come in there. And, and all of that is, we did not know what we didn't know. So of course we didn't plan for WNBA because we didn't have the WNBA.
It's funny because it sounds like you were kind of ahead of the curve. That's a common topic, in the last, 6 months at least, is the whole idea of a dynamic media facility and being able to repurpose things to different services and that sort of thing. Sounds like you were, like I said, a bit ahead of the curve on doing that.
Maybe, I don't want to take too much credit because we absolutely didn't know there was a curve. Like, we just, we
did what you had to do.
Certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. In the sports area, I know, what I always find cool when I look at our products, is that there's so much interesting stuff you can do with, the pre and post shows that might be super challenging, or if not impossible in the live environment, but you can really expand on what your creatives can do a lot more in the pre and post shows. You want to talk about some of the cool stuff you do in pre and post sports shows?
Sure. So, one thing that we bought Piero, which is a raw, telestration and editing, system. It's, to call it just telestration is selling it short. But the teams can really pre-pro a lot of stuff there is great. And we use it for hockey. We use it for basketball. We use it for, soccer, certainly. And then
Can you actually give us some examples for people who might have watched this on TV,
so
in hockey or basketball?
it makes it look like the video game, right? So I put a yellow circle under Matthew Miller and he skates around and we know how far he skated. And if he hits the puck, we know where it goes and kind of all that data driven. And a lot of that's done on an editing side, right? And they're able to pre-produce all this great content, which is awesome. But our head of Court TV, who kind of looks through the lens of his network, sees this and it's like, hey, can I use that? I'm like, well, yeah, but for what? He's like, well, we have a lot of court cases that have great evidence. Can I like break down evidence with this system? And so I'm like, well, sure. Let's figure out what buttons we want where. And let's find a way. And, after, some painstaking rehearsals, they have found a way to take evidence from a court case, whether it's, Karen Reed's trial in Boston where, it's kind of, anyway, she allegedly, or at this point, she's been found not guilty of running over her police officer boyfriend. There's a lot of pictures. You had the car driving away. So we were able to unpack all that, evidence using Piero, which is 100% not made for that. Like it was absolutely, in fact, when I told your guys, hey, we're doing this, so like, we don't believe you, send us a clip, which is pretty fascinating, so, obviously we're fans of that work. And then, we, like most places, our studios aren't gigantic. They're not, it's not this Amazon Prime MGM where you got 60 feet, LED spaces. So we pre-pro a lot of bump shots, as you can imagine. We lean into, we pre-pro as much as we can in the sports world because we know, we build graphics especially for vertical monitors or, different arrays.
Yeah. So, well, speaking of a lack of space in studios, one thing that tends to help with that is robotics. Are you guys, leveraging that? And if so, how? What kind of programming?
For sure. And I would probably say that the biggest kind of ongoing technology improvement is the robotic cameras. Gone is the day of it's just going to pan left. Or, okay, he's taller than she is, let's pet up. You can really do some legitimate on-air moves that look really nice. And we have, and we've kind of beat it into them. I'm kidding a little. But, we all can look at the robotic and tell it's not a jib. We certainly can. But we can also get that camera to do things that if it was a human being moving the camera, it could not do. Ross has a great way of, shots are not A and B anymore. It's A, B, C, D. It's, Z formations. It's, get your floor level and it can physically move on air, which hasn't been the case, forever. We like them. Each control room can control all the cameras. They're saved in a central server, so you can pull up your shots if you're in a different space. So kind of the X's and O's of it are really good. And, while the cameras can run into each other, it's hard to run into the wall now. You can actually tell the system where the desk is. And not run into it. Now we still find a way often, but yeah, the robotic experience is much different than it was a decade ago. And as an end user, it's a better experience and it's certainly better on television. It is, we own 13 robotic cameras, 9 of which are the full CamBot, PED, tilt, zoom, focus, truck dolly, 4 of which are just don't dolly your truck because of the space limitations. So 3 of those would be in Washington, and then 1 of those is in our kind of data center.
Is it fair to say you couldn't do what you're doing now with traditional cameramen and cameras, that this is enabling you to do some things that you wouldn't have been able to do?
Absolutely. And it's fair to say that the production value wouldn't be as high as it is with robotic systems 5 or 6 years ago. the firmware updates and the software updates in robotic cameras is a real thing, and it gets better and better and better and better and better. We've been keying graphics the same way for 30 years. That is not the case with robotic cameras.
So, one thing that you'll hear often, and I like to push back against it, and you and I, Matthew, have talked about this before, is that a lot of these advances, technological advances, some people might say this is a threat to human beings, right? And that we're